As you can see, we've got cakes here. This is actually one cake mix baked in 2 tins. The reason why we do that is so they don't dry out around the edge. Now, the other benefit is we can get them in and out of the ovens quicker and into the fridge. As you can see, we did these yesterday, but we have, once they cooled, we have covered them with Glad wrap and popped them in the fridge. We find it a lot easier to work with cold cakes. So let's get started. All we need to do to level with a cake level is line up the cake level and saw it through. As you can see, we have a few little gaps here, which isn't a problem because what we're going to do is use a little bit of ganache. We'll use this like glue just to fill in the corners, and then use a little bit of the cake that we've just taken off to fill it up. Now, we don't want it to sit high, we just want it to sit level with the cake here. We can actually cut it down lower so this is completely flat, but the benefit of doing this way is you actually get a little bit more height in your cake and you have less wastage. Saying that, we do have a video on 10-minute truffles which you actually make with cake tops. So never throw cake tops out. Just throw them in the food processor and then pop them in the freezer. So when you want to make some truffles, all you'll really need to do is get the cake tops, which have now been turned to crumbs, add ganache and make them from there. Put a link below for the truffles. It's really easy to make. Okay, so now that you've done that, what we need to do is stick it to a cake board. Then pick the cake up. We'll need to put it on a plastic board here, a plastic mat. Make sure your cake at this point is in the center of your board. Now we're just going to put some ganache on the top here. And glue this one on top. A lot of people ask how much ganache to put on. I've got to be honest, I love ganache. So, you know, 3-4 mil. If it's for myself, I'll put more. Push it down so it's nice and firm. Now we're going to pop this in the fridge to set before we start ganaching around the edge. And so it doesn't move between here and the fridge, I'm just going to put a couple of skewers in it. We're going to take those out before we ganache the cake. Okay, so we're going to start applying the ganache to this cake to prepare it for the fondant. The cake's just come fresh out of the fridge, so it's quite firm. We'll take out the skewers, and we want to heavily coat this cake with ganache so it's out past the silver board. So that's quite a big bit of ganache, but we will be scraping it back. If your ganache is quite soft, what you can do is apply a couple of coats, put it in the fridge, and then apply some more. You don't have to do it all in one hit. But if your cake is already cool from the fridge, you'll find that you'll be able to get it on the cake a little faster. Okay, now we've got the ganache on the cake, what we need to do is we need to scrape it back. So I've got a ganaching tool here sitting in hot water. So what we're going to do is scrape the ganache all the way back and put what we've scraped off into our little plastic jug. We need to do this all the way around the cake, making sure that our ganaching tool stays completely flat to the bench top, up against the cake and at a 45-degree angle here. And the reason why we want it at a 45-degree angle instead of a 90-degree angle is at a 90-degree angle, as we drag it along, it will shuffle along and leave a whole little lines up and down the edge of the cake. At a 45-degree angle, it glides along smoothly. Now you want to scrape the cake all the way back to where your silver setup board is, dipping your ganaching tool in the hot water and dabbing it on the sponge you've got here, in between each scrape to make sure you get a smooth finish. Now we've scraped this way for this corner. Now we want to scrape this way for this back corner. We want to achieve sharp edges, which we can, just takes a little bit longer with a square cake. Okay, We'll just move around to the next side. Now this is a perfect example, I'll just show you, of where we didn't have quite enough ganache. So this is the perfect time to add more, and we'll scrape it back straight away. If you think we need to add more after that, you can. The better finish you have on your ganaching here, the better finish you'll have on your fondant when you finish. Now we have put a thin layer of ganache on the top of the cake here. Okay, so we're going to cut this piece of chocolate off the side of the cake here, and we just got a hot spatula. We just dip it in the hot water, dab it on the sponge, and slice through it. It should come off very easily. If it doesn't come off easily, you need to get hotter water. Now, when you get to corners, you need to work in this way for your corner and in that way for that corner. Otherwise you'll have some problems with it breaking right off. Okay, so we'll do that all the way round. You want the top of the cake to be completely flat, because if it's not flat, what's actually going to happen is you're going to create a pocket or a place where the air can sit when you're applying your fondant. So there's a little spot there that's got a couple of little potential pockets, we'll say. Just fill it with a little bit of ganache. Now when you're going around your edge doing that, it will push a little bit of a lip over the edge. You can just run your spatula along there and it will sit the lip back up, and you can wipe it in. Once you've done that, the cake is ready to have the fondant applied.